So the first thing we're going to do today is talk about what happens what is supposed to happen when you quarantine. I polled the teachers this morning, not really polled, but we talked about it because I have been receiving many emails saying, "What do I do?" Or, "Oh, I was supposed to do that," and not just a handful of students. Many students are not completing the assignments that are being put onto FACS and Teams while they're quarantining. Now, this is the thing. If you have COVID and you are ill, you're not asymptomatic. You have symptoms, and they're bad enough that you can't do schoolwork. I get that. I was in my recliner for 4 days doing nothing. It took every ounce of energy I had to write nonsensical lesson plans for whoever was taking my class. So this doesn't apply to people who actually have COVID. But if you are home because of quarantining, whether that's quarantining with your family or whether that's quarantining because Mr. Hood has come around with his clipboard and sent you home, you're expected to do that. You're distance learning at that point. You're in school. You're just in school at home. Does that make sense? It's just like last spring, right? And yet I'm finding that a lot of students are not actually doing that. So I did the math. I know that's scary when I do that, but we spend exactly 7 hours in school each day. If you take away homeroom and lunch and time before and after a lesson is done that you've got, a few minutes to chat or whatever, it's roughly 6 hours that you are engaged in actual learning. That's what you should be doing while you're quarantining, is engaging in those things. If you can do it in less than 6 hours, that's fine. When I homeschooled, I had something that looked very much like this for each of my children, and they each had a lesson plan for each day for us to go through, and we spent hours, not 7 hours. We spent hours each day in school. That's the expectation. The expectation is that you are keeping up with your work. And you want to do that. I know you don't want to do that, but trust me, you want to do that because when you come back, you'll be behind and you have work in 6 classes, 7 classes, 8 classes that's going on. The class is here and you're here. You're behind and you're trying to catch up. And that can't cause you to your grades to suffer. When you're behind and trying to catch up, that's when your grades begin to suffer because you're not doing your best work because you don't have enough time to do your best work. When you're home every day, not sick, you've got plenty of time. So that's the expectation, not only my expectation, but your teacher's expectation. So that's one problem we have, is students either not understanding or not wanting to actually do work while they're home on quarantine. That's got to change. Now you understand. By the way, once I'm done talking to you, I will hold you responsible to what I've told you. And some of you have missing grades because you didn't do work while you were in quarantine, and you're failing Bible right now because of it. Now, you can turn those things in, and those grades will go up. But so you're responsible for this information. That's the expectation, is that while you're home, as long as you're not too sick to do your work, that you are staying current with your work. The second question I get, I can't even tell you how many emails I've got that says, what do I do? Even though I've explained it and your other teachers have explained it. Most of your teachers are using FACS and Teams. Some of your teachers are just using FACS. But nobody's using anything other than FACS and Teams. So what I'm about to tell you is true for most of your teachers, and they know I'm doing this today. So the first part of that procedure is for you to go to fax, to go to your portal and fax. It should look something like this. It may look exactly like this. At least that's what Mr. Bookless told us last year. It'll have your name. It'll be personalized. This is a generic one, but it will look something like this. When you get to this page, you go all the way over to the left, and you click a little thingy over here. No. So you go down here and you click classes. Now, this is going to come up with all the classes because it's my computer. For you, it probably only has your classes on it. And it doesn't matter if you click on your Bible A, Bible 11A, but you can click on Bible 11B because they're the exact same lesson. I just copy and paste the lesson. And then you're going to get something that looks like this with a horrible picture of me. You're going to go up and click on homework. And what does it say was your assignment for Monday this week? Enjoy your snow day. And enjoy your snow day. I never give work on snow days. Snow days are God's gift to let you chill out and drink hot chocolate and get caught up on grading. For me, by the way, I got all caught up on grading. It'll last for a day, and then I'll be fine. And to go sledding, and to build snowmen, and whatever, binge watch Great British Baking Show, whatever it is. But beginning today, those who are home, this is what they're expected to do. And so you go to that, and it says, okay, so I write 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 3 in the Bible notebook. You do that. By the way, here's my strong admonition to you. I know that this seems like busy work, like we have to write it down every time, the whole thing, every time we add a verse. We have to recite it aloud every day. Do any of you actually study for it? Probably not really, because you already know it. And this is why. Because you write it down when we add a new verse and we recite it again. So go ahead and do that. And yeah, you're going to recite it aloud to yourself. Nobody's there. You're fine. Your little brothers might make fun of you, but just say, hey, I've got a name Bible, so quiet. So then they're going to watch this video that we're doing right now, right? So you just go through and you do it. Now, let's say you have something that you need to do. Today, it's just all going to be on video. But let's say it says take the Bible verse quiz or take the chapter 8 test. Then in that case, you're going to go to Teams. Anything that you need, any handout that you need, any quiz that you need, any test that you need, if it says it's in Teams, you go to Teams. This is the student view. So once you click on chapter 8 test, this is what you should see. And I don't care if it's a chapter 8 test or it's a verse quiz or whatever. If it's something that you need to write on, by the way, if it says don't turn it in, don't return it, don't return it. I don't need it. I didn't take a grade on it. So you don't need to return your study guide to me, or you don't need to return something that we did and we completed, but I didn't take a grade on it. But here's where you what you'll see, and it tells you how many points are possible, and then you'll see these words. Open the assignment in Teams. Complete and return in Teams. So you go to these three little dots, and it says open in Teams. So you open it in Teams. And I have put on there that you can edit your document. I want you to take this test. I want you to type in your answers. Now, if it bothers you that when you put when you write true or false on here, you have to do edit document. If it bothers you that it makes the line longer, just get rid of the lines or shorten the lines. It doesn't bother me. I'm not that kind of person, but I know some of you are just like, it's ugly. So fix it so it's pretty. I'm fine with that, okay? Here's what I'm not fine with. Here's what's much more difficult for you and for me. I still have students that are taking this, printing it off, taking pictures, 6 different pictures of it, and returning me, and sometimes in the chat, sometimes emailing it, sometimes putting it in here, and it doesn't tell me that you've done it unless you return it in Teams. And so that is more difficult for you, and it's more difficult for me. Those pictures, I'm sorry, but y'all aren't really good photographers. And so sometimes like your arm is like making a shadow over it, and I can't see it. Sometimes it's like this big, especially if you give it to me in the chat. I'm like, okay, nobody can read that. It's not just me that can't read that. Nobody can read that. And so this is so much easier. Just take it online. I grade it online, and I return it to you in Teams. So if you took this test in Teams, now print it off so that you have it. You have a copy to study for, you know, your final exam. But for doing it, please complete it with your computer and your keyboard in Teams, whatever it is, whatever assignment it is. Please do that. Yes?
How do you grade it online?
I just do it the same way. I do. I put an X if it's wrong, and I'll write like if in this case the short answers. If I take points off, I'll explain why in there. Why it looks just like what I do when I do it by hand. It's just you can read the handwriting because it's fine. Okay. Questions? Okay. So here's where I tell you, no questions. Everybody understood this? You're now responsible for this information. If you quarantine again, if you're homesick and you're not too sick, I mean this is always going to be up here. I spend hours and hours with all your teachers. You need to understand, your teachers are teaching both remotely and in person at the same time. I spent 4 hours here on Saturday getting all of these lesson plans. Just doing that. So your teachers are spending hours and hours to make sure that when you're home, you have what you need. So it's respectful of you to make sure you're doing what they're asking you. Okay? So please make sure that you're doing that. Now, next thing. I have a sheet to hand out to you and to explain to you. You may have caught wind of this in years past, but this will be your first year of doing this. You'll do it this year, and you'll do it again next year. This is for the banquet. It's going to look a little different this year, but we're still having the His Legacy banquet this year. For that, our juniors and seniors write a story. It has to be able to fit on one page type. But write a story about something having to do with their Cornerstone journey. This is a required assignment. I've toyed with the idea of giving you extra credit for it. It will not be graded, but I will take it and I will edit it, not to change anything you say, but I will edit it to make sure that your grammar and your punctuation and your spelling are correct. And then I'll let you look at it to make sure you're okay with those edits. So it's a big job to get all that done. So here's what it says. Mr. Hood and Mrs. Schrog want a visible representation of the impact Cornerstone Christian School has had on its upper class students. These creations will become part of the centerpieces of the fundraising banquet on Sunday, March 14th at the Livestock Exchange Building. The theme of the banquet is His legacy, meaning God's legacy. The theme verse is Ephesians 5:1-2. I think it is. Anyway, it might be different this year, but I wasn't told otherwise. Imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are His dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered Himself as a sacrifice for us, as a pleasing aroma to God. Think about that for a minute. We are to be imitators of God, following Christ's example. Hopefully, you have seen godly imitation in your classmates and teachers. If we are doing that, we will leave behind a God-honoring legacy. Indeed, you are part of God's legacy through Cornerstone. The legacy you leave for Christ will, by God's grace, lead to generations of godly, blessed people. How exciting is that? In light of this, you are being asked to write a brief message, a paragraph to a page in length, about the impact being at Cornerstone has had on your life. You can write about a specific situation that has had an impact on you, a teacher that helped you grow spiritually or academically, a chapel service that spoke to you, how your walk with Christ has grown during your time at Cornerstone, a retreat or mission trip that changed your life, or whatever story about Cornerstone you want to tell. Just tell your story from the heart. Now, this says that this is due on Tuesday, February 2nd. That was when we were going to have school on Monday. I was going to do this on Monday. So it'll probably not be due until here's what I'm battling. I have to edit all of these. I have to edit 25 plus 32. So 57, 25 plus 32 of these puppies. So that takes a while, and it has to happen before March 14th for sure. And so I may push it off till Friday, but you will get some class time. Actually, you'll get some time in class today. So that's February 2nd-ish kind of due date. I want you to turn it in electronically. You can either email it to me. I know I just told you not to email it to me, but I just send those emails to one place because it's much easier for me to edit online than to do it by hand and have you edit it and give it back to me. It's just faster this way. Or you can bring in a flash drive, which is even better, and we can plug it into my computer and we can download it to my computer. So, but I want it turned in electronically. I don't want a physical copy of it. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions or bounce ideas off of Mrs. Schrog, Mr. Hood, or me. So, any questions that you're thinking of right now? Okay. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. Take your books, please, your Big Atheist books, and open them to page 219. At the top, it should say chapters 9 through 12 will cover the following. So that number 6 is where we are. We've done all that stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've done all of that. And so the 9, 10, 11, and 12 will cover these things. The New Testament is historically reliable. This is evidenced by early testimony, eyewitness testimony, uninvented, authentic testimony, eyewitnesses who were not deceived. So this is what we'll be reading in chapters 9 through 12. But then for chapter 9, we will be reading a chapter again from The Reason for God by Timothy Keller. And we will read chapter 7, which the title is You Can't Take the Bible Literally. And it will cover things, similar themes as your Big Atheist book. And then what we'll do, you'll begin reading Tim Keller in class tomorrow. I will give you time to read in class. If you need to check a book out, you may do that. But what you'll be doing is reading and taking notes, because you're going to write a letter to a friend and explain to that person what you're learning about the Bible. And there'll be a whole prompt and everything. I planned on giving that to you today. I don't think that I copied it off. I'll go back to the back and see. But if I will definitely give it to you tomorrow if I don't have it back there. for today, I'm just letting you know that that's where we're headed. For today, you can use the rest of the hour to begin working on his legacy story. And if you have any questions about that, what should I write about? Whatever you want to write about Cornerstone, we can talk through that a little bit if you need to. Questions? Yes. Yes, but you have to be working because there's a class in there, and before you do that, let me ask Mr. Benson if that's okay.